Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. Wow, wow, wow. The world is rocking and rolling. There's so many, I listen to the news on my way to work, AM station, it's a Fox affiliate. So, obviously they got that Fox taintedness, very, very polarized in their views. And, I'm really starting to get, I'm getting tired of the programming, I guess. It's so blatant. Well, it's blatantly obvious to me because I'm aware of what's going on, and I'm aware of how our subconscious mind soaks this stuff up. And it is programming. They don't call it a radio program for nothing. And it's the fear card is played so hard in everything. I'm not just talking about the news that I listen to, the commercials. Oh my God, the commercials. It's, somebody knew exactly what they were saying back in the day when they said fear sells. And because they sure, it sure does, and they sure use the hell out of it. Anyways, okay. So, we are recording this on November 4th of 2014, and
Tom's birthday just passed. Happy belated.
Yeah, well, thank you. And in another, 2 weeks, we'll be at our 4th anniversary, Ramon.
Yay!
Yeah, can you believe it?
4 years of
you put up with me for that long.
Yeah. It's quite amazing, actually, how fast time flies by with those things. I guess that's why it's so important that if you want to do something, maybe a change in your life, start writing a book, starting a radio show, travel to this country, do it as quick as possible, because by the time you notice, time has just flown by and you still haven't done what you're waiting for the perfect time to do. Which there is no perfect time like right now. So if you want to do something new, learn a new language, whatever, start little by little. Or if you want to travel to this country, get a can, put a couple quarters or yen or wherever you may be, shillings, in a day, and by the time you notice, you got enough to travel to the place you want to go to. Or
action speaks louder than words, right?
Yeah, I don't know why humans always do this. We're waiting for the perfect timing to do everything, and it's, for this, clouds to open up and, the golden escalator to come down or something.
Well, there is a fine line there too, Ramon. Especially, when you start understanding some of the undercurrents of this life. Take for instance, we just came out of a Mercury retrograde, and I had some business I needed to do at the bank, and I postponed doing that business until Mercury went direct again. And that's just, I'm basing this on, thousands of years of experience that people have had with doing business during a Mercury retrograde, and the types of results that they got by initiating things during that period. So, yeah. There is a fine line about waiting for things for the right time.
Yeah, but that's different, Tom. You knew that
exactly
already, so you waited. But other people are waiting and they don't know what they're waiting for. That's completely different. It's more procrastination than anything else.
Exactly. That's the point there, Ramon.
For example, really quickly before our guest falls asleep, when I was under 26, I was waiting for something perfect to happen before I can go and travel to a foreign country. And that never came, and then it wasn't until a friend of mine who was a psychic who said, if you don't do it now, you'll never do it. And then that's when I was like, okay, let's go.
Right.
But yeah. So, Tom, we have someone who's been on the show who has a great sense of humor and is just fun to talk to. Even if we're just talking to talk.
Yeah, we got Sonia Barrett back with us. I've met Sonia a couple of times in person, and once down there in the beautiful state of California, and once up here at a conference in Washington, and she's just a dynamite dynamo. I mean, this woman has got so much energy and focus and drive and passion about what she's doing. She's the author of the Holographic Canvas, The Fusing of Mind and Matter, which published in 2008. Her insights are cutting edge, with much of it supported by quantum physics. Sonia Barrett's work bridges the gap between science and spirituality in a simplified format. She addresses the programming, beliefs, and concepts by which we have lived our lives, both individually and collectively. These insights provide clarity in understanding the paradox of both the real and the unreal, the visible and the invisible components of reality, the holographic experience. Known for her mind-bending concepts, she stretches the mind even further by going beyond the common view of time. Sonia has appeared on panels with such noted speakers as scientists, speakers and scientists as Dr. Amit Goswami, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and numbers of others. She's been keynote speaker at a number of conferences. To name a few, the ISSEEM conference, ISSSEEM conference, the Conscious Life Expo UFO conference, and the Alchemy conference. Sonia is a popular radio guest appearing on such shows as Coast to Coast, Red Eyes, Conscious Media Network, the 100th Monkey Radio, and many, many others. She appeared in the 2010 film Ghetto Physics, produced by Will Arntz, the same guy that did What the Bleep Do You Know, and E. Raymond Brown. She also appears in the upcoming docudrama openings, The Search for Harry. Oh, but that's not an upcoming, that's a release. She's currently working on her first documentary called The Business of Disease, which she did some fantastic work there. Her websites, a couple that are very pertinent here, are her main website, which is www.spiritinform.com, and thebusinessofdisease.com. She also does, I don't know if she's still doing her radio show actively, but she's got another website, sovereignmindradio.com. Sonia, welcome back to the 100th Monkey.
Oh, thank you so much, Tom. Thank you for having me on, both of you. Sovereign Mind Radio is no more. It's Reality Bridge radio, but I haven't been doing my show for quite a few months because of the film.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's what the dog was objecting to, was trying to correct you on that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I have the door almost closed. Those are my chihuahuas, by the way. They're vicious. My sound guard dogs.
Yeah, they're attack dogs. Mm-hmm.
So I want to get your opinion on waiting for right timing or procrastination on things we want to do in our life, especially coming from someone like you who's done, how many different things have you done?
I don't know. I'm telling
Radio, film, books.
I just do. I just do whatever I feel, whatever comes to me strongly to do next, I just do it. I don't really put that much thought into it. I dive in head first, and then
check for the bottom later.
Later, yeah. Once I'm through it, I'm like, whoa, what was I thinking? But I think that everybody is different. I think that's, besides, yes, the awareness part of it and the what we call the spiritual part of it, I think that's part of me, how I am, and I know everybody isn't like that. My honey does a lot of thinking. He has to think and he has to process, and it could take him a while. While he's doing that, I've ran circles, 12 times and made it back, and he's still thinking about something. So I think everybody's just kind of different. Now, is there a right timing? I feel that when we're kind of aligned, I think that you proceed with doing things, and if indeed the timing, maybe in that moment, maybe that week is off, I think things just sort of kind of happen to kind of either slow you down or kind of stop you. And I think it's a matter of just paying attention to when those moments seem to happen and you're just going in a circle, that you kind of say, okay, all right, let me just step back for a minute. That's kind of the approach I take, that day, for some reason, or for that couple days, everything I do, I feel like I've done nothing. I just go in a circle. I just run into blocks and blocks and blocks. So I just say, you know what? Maybe we should just kick back today. Maybe we should just step aside today. So I think it's all of that. It's all of just paying attention. I don't do the Mercury retrograde thing, and I know a lot of people do it, just because I never really pay attention. I never know where we're at. I never know what month it is or what day. So I'm usually just kind of going along. And I just think when when it's not where I'm supposed to be pushing at that moment, it just doesn't. No matter how I push, it's not happening right then. And I just kind of recognize that and just know it's all in order.
Right. I bet you if you went back and looked at, if you lined some astrological charts up with bad decisions you made and good decisions you made, you may be actually surprised on how well it lines up.
It probably does.
Yeah.
I don't know. It probably does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely something to that astrology thing.
Well, I think that, here's my whole approach with all of it. I think that all of this is set up on some sort of, it's all cyclic. There's a lot of cycles that we deal with in this reality, in whatever we define as life. There's a lot of cycles, and we certainly see that by the fact that there's what we call 24 hours in a day. We notice that the sun comes up and then it goes down and then it's dark and then it comes up again. That one little cycle happens over and over again, and hence is where astrology is. It is right there in terms of astrology, because it's all the movement, however we want to look at it, movement, the planet, the stars, everything is moving, and it is revolving around that 24 hours of what we call a 24 hour day. And so it's all happening in these various cycles, what the position the planet is in at that moment, and so on, and according to and also lines up with us, our brain waves, our our belief systems. It's all this massive network, no different to me than the internet. It's just the massive, in a way undefinable networking system that's there, and so each day holds a frequency. Just they knew that too. So there is nothing that we do that doesn't have some specific, I think, frequency to it, and represents something in terms of our action and movement within that day. However, even though I know that, I just feel like nothing should control me, so I still go ahead and just do. And I do. I just go ahead and I just do. And if indeed that's not what I'm supposed to be doing, then I'm just going to trust that. I don't put it off on anything. I just trust that we are so aligned, that I'm so on, that whatever it is I do is going to be okay. Even if we define it as the wrong thing, it was not the wrong thing because I learned something from it. So that's kind of how I look at it. I just think all my choices, all the choices we make, are all valid, no matter how somebody may look at it as insane. But there is something that we're getting from every decision that we make.
I agree 100% with that. I mean, I always take the stance of no matter what, in the end, it's all going to be okay.
It's all going to be okay. You're being gifted with with everything, every experience we have. And that's all we do here, it's experience. We're constantly experiencing. Even when you say you're going to do nothing, if you're going to be a monk up on a hill, in a cave, you're still experiencing. You're experiencing not doing anything. You're always experiencing whatever it is in that moment. And I think to just recognize that, I think we can not beat up on ourselves so much. And I think people do that a lot. They're upset with themselves because of a decision that they made, because they did this or they didn't do that. And it's a lot of pressure, and you've just got to know that every single situation that you've encountered in your life has led you to this very moment. It's all just a stepping stone, and as we can take the gifts, I think, from those experiences, then we don't really have to repeat them. They don't even have to be good or bad. They just were what they were. And that includes relationships. And you just use that as part of your evolution, and you don't have to repeat it again. Mostly because you don't hate it or despise it or wish you could have done it differently or wish you hadn't. Wishing just kind of sets you up for potentially having an opportunity to do it again. And I prefer not. I just rather grab what I learned from it and move to the next thing.
Yeah, I think that's where I started the conversation, where if you're unhappy in your situation and you're not taking whatever steps, of course it's baby steps to change that situation, and then you're waiting for that perfect moment when you can start. So let's just use something as weight loss, or maybe where you live now, it's kind of toxic because of whatever, and you're taking you're waiting for the perfect time to get out of that situation.
Yeah, you're right. And people do that. I think that's a real common thing, and I think it has to do with our social programming, and it depends on your family background as well too, because even though they're bouncing off social programs, but I think in our society we have all of these what should we say, things that we have to meet, these barometers, these measuring, devices in terms of belief systems and how you must do things and how you must be responsible, or, being worried that you're not going to be responsible, or your actions aren't that of one that is responsible, or you have to save this much money to get this done, or you have to wait, I guess, like you said, the ideal time to lose weight, wait till you do this thing or that thing. And what I find is a lot of times people will spend their whole life never really doing that thing that they really wanted to do because there was never a right time. So I agree with you there, so I think any time, I don't care how old you are, I think that any moment can be the ideal moment, and if you step into doing what you wanted to do, there's no worrying about failing. And I think, Ramon, that's one of the things that people are afraid of. They're so afraid of that word of failing, and I don't see anything as a failure. What I see is that I say to never have tried. That, if anything, that would be failing. But not to try and things didn't really work out the way that you thought, because now you have the experience of having tried that, and you can use the information, all the data that you gathered from the experience, to then move forward and do something else again, and maybe do it differently. So the failing is really, it doesn't really, I don't think it really exists. I think it's just experiences.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of cooking, like you make a dish and it tastes awful, then you know not to put the cup of salt next time.
Oh, that's not good right there. It doesn't taste good.
But
exactly.
I think that's what makes a good cook is all his awful dishes that you haven't tasted.
Yeah. I haven't had any awful dishes, but anyway, that's just me. Excuse me. It's just, It's just going at it. And again, I think the setup is trying to meet all these status quo, all of these guidelines, social guidelines that we think we have to meet. And an example of this is in doing this film, I did everything completely off chart of any way that anybody thinks that you should do a film. I never sat and created a business plan. I never sat and created a budget. I just never did any of those things. And I've spoken to other professionals, and you know what they told me? That's the way. You just jumped in and did it. And it was like, yes. We don't always do all of those things. And then I know other people that have said, I want to do this film, but we're working out the budget, and then we've got to go here, and we've got to try to get funding. And then they end up still there trying to do that, as opposed to just figuring out, well, how can I start? Where can I start? And just kind of just start. And I think things, at least for me anyway, things unfold, and there are moments where it all stops. In doing this film, there are times when the momentum was high, boom, boom, everything's happening, and then all of a sudden it comes to the stall, and it seemed like just nothing happened. I can't really move forward. Then guess what? I embrace that moment. I go ahead and totally embrace that moment and just know that everything is really happening in its right time. And that's how I see timing. I'm respecting this moment. This is what's happening right now, and I feel okay with it. And then when it was time for it to pick up momentum again, it picked it up, and you move right along. And and all things, it just kind of unfolds, and all that you need just kind of gradually shows up. That's my approach to it.
That whole fear card, people being afraid of failure, and the way that is drummed into us from
kindergarten,
from birth,
preschool.
Right? Yeah.
Preschool.
Yeah.
I see it where I teach. Sorry, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'm just, I don't know. I suppose I'm looking for, some of the key things that we can look at ourselves, within ourselves, to start recognizing where that programming is and what it is that is programming that is curtailing our efforts or our initiative, our passion for things, our
motivation.
Our motivation.
Drive.
Yeah. I mean, are there any real key factors, key components with this that you've been able to pick out?
I think so. I think that if somebody's listening, I think that the challenge for us is being honest with ourselves. And I think that's where it begins. I think that's the challenge, is to really, really be honest with ourselves. And the reason why I'm saying that in this particular context that we're talking is that if we can listen to ourselves as to what our beliefs are in terms of the reasons that we give ourselves for not doing something, you can then begin to detect where that belief came from. Because we are so good at finding ways to validate the choices that we make. Oh yeah, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to start the business yet. I'm going to wait until the kids are older. It'll be just stuff we come up with, and then it sounds good and we believe that. But is it because of that, or is it fear? Is there a quiet fear? And I think if at that moment one can stop and just let your mind wander into what it would feel like, what it would take at this moment if I decided I would go ahead and do it. Just in your mind, run through the process that you think you are going to need to take to make that happen, to really fulfill this quiet dream you have. And what you're going to find is you're going to pay attention to your emotions. You're going to pay attention to how your heart probably beats or are not in your stomach when in the process of imagining you come to these little pockets where one of the things that you think you might need to do, suddenly you have an emotional response. A fear builds up in you. That's how you start knowing, because you start running the whole idea. What would it take? What would it take for me to just do it if I dived in right now? And there you will begin to detect those programs. Now, when it pops up, when something pops up, a situation of I can't do that, you can ask yourself, well, why do I think that I can't do that? And that one moment, you can start tracing that back also to other things. Were there other things in my life where this emotion has come up? Okay. Now you start kind of looking at it deeper. Now you kind of go back to when you were a little kid. When I was a little child, in kindergarten, preschool, whatever, this certain thing happened, and I remember I didn't want to do it. What happened? My parents or my teacher, somebody said something to me, and I felt so bad, or I couldn't do it because I was told that I couldn't. It'll all start to just like emerge, just like show up. And then it's that aha moment, where you're like, oh, that's what it is. Now you set out to change that. Now you set out to go, okay, you know what? That is not the case right now. In this moment, that is not what's happening. So how about I look into the first step? Even if I just start making calls to inquire, start investigating what I need to do, and that's how you start to override it. I have a thing with water, with swimming, in deep water especially, even though I'm from an island. You can laugh. So I started taking swimming lessons like maybe 2 months ago. And I have a pool in my backyard, but I will only stay on the shallow end. So I ended up taking swimming lessons, and as I got in and really started to relax, I started to talk to myself. I talked myself through the whole thing, through everything, and just say, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is now. That was then, this is now. And just start letting go little by little. So we have the power to find what's in our subconscious mind by paying attention to what comes up, by being honest with ourselves and realize we don't have to sweep the truth under the rug, and validate it with illusionary ideas.
Yeah, and I guess for me an important note that I made with my own personal journey through sorting through some of those ingrained in programmed fears was that once I was able to recognize something and go back and find the instance that initiated it in the beginning, I find that it pops up in so many different areas of life that it's like and it's a slow process actually getting it all out on the table and really dissolving it. Because as soon as I thought, I finally got rid of that, and then boom, it pops up over another area, and it hits me upside the back of the head. So I guess the point I want to make here is that persistence with this stuff really pays off. I mean, and well, at least for me personally,
it's true.
The persistence in the desire, my own personal desire to be free, basically to be free.
You're right. You're absolutely right, Tom. Persistence and desire, and that's like with anything, and that thing in particular. Yes, it's like you have to want whatever it is so bad. You have to really want it, and there's nobody that can fix it like that for you. I don't care what they tell you. You need to, even if you, even in consultation, like I'll do consultations, and I have walked people through this. And as a matter of fact, I did that with Whitley Strieber. You go on his site and you'll see that we did some of it on air, and then we did the rest of it after, because it just went so awesome. But yeah, somebody can help you to get through it, walk you through it, but ultimately it's you that's releasing it, and it's you that's able to really want to let it go, want to move forward. And I do find what Tom said, that sometimes, you think you've moved through something and it pops up again, and it pops up in different ways, different situations. It's not necessarily going to look the same, but it's popping up all over. And you know why it does it? Because it wants you to know it's still there, so you can work on it, so you can clear it. People that show up in your life, I call them, I say that they represent a printout. That's how I like to look at it. They represent a printout of your subconscious mind. So they show up with certain kinds of behaviors, certain situations, but they're really helping to show you how you feel about yourself on a very deep level, on a subconscious level. And that's why a lot of times when certain things change in us and our lives change, we notice people disappear. We don't even sometimes realize that they're no longer there anymore. Occasionally we'll go, I wonder what happened to this person. Because they're just not necessary. The script that they run, based on the script that you've written, is perhaps no longer a pertinent piece of acting. So,
right.
Yeah, so they're not there.
Right. Yeah. And I've talked about that one before several times on the show, where as I continued on my path and started getting myself more centered, those things that used to come up and plague me just kind of melt away. Mm-hmm. The prime example that I use is getting pulled over by the cops. Mm-hmm. When I was in my 20s and 30s, early 30s anyways, it was a pretty regular thing where I would get pulled over for speeding or tailgating or whatever. And once I really started getting myself, and I was always looking for those blues.
Right.
They were something that was on my radar very, very strongly. But as things progress, those instances just kind of melted away, and now it's just, I don't even pay any attention to it because I know that I'm in a different place.
Right. Right.
That part of it's really hard to explain well and convey accurately, but no,
yeah.
And again, those actors are no longer needed in my play. Absolutely,
I agree, because that's basically how I live my life. I can't even begin to tell people on air how I live. But anyway, I absolutely agree. And I think that's the part that we have to wrap our minds around, is how this whole reality is designed. And that's why I say, what's significant about the world? Well, what's significant about the world is the piece that you are experiencing more than anything else. The slice that you are experiencing on a daily basis is really your slice of reality. Otherwise, you are really being fed bits and pieces about ideas and concepts about what reality could and should be, and that's where the media comes in, and that's where magazines and pictures and images and videos, they all keep your imagination rolling, because you are not there experiencing all of these possibilities, so they bring them to you, and we then emotionally can get a charge from it and experience, we have a rush of emotions on an idea or a concept. So it is pretty interesting. So yeah, outside of that, everybody that you're interacting with on a daily basis is what makes up your world. Not really what you hear on the news. That's just the extra, what is that? That's just the extras the icing. That's the extras you ordered on your virtual reality package.
So what about in the cases, for example, going back to a little bit like we were talking about in the beginning, where so this person, like for example, if I'm comparing someone like Tom, okay, Tom has a radio show, he's a manager at this place, and he knows how to build things, but that's Tom, he's special. I can't do that. And
He's special as in what? Just trying to clarify for the audience.
Oh no, we don't need too much clarity there.
No. But in this case, for example, like you'll take the Wright brothers and two guys who worked on bicycles, nothing special, they didn't go to any special school, were dropouts, and then build the first airplane. And then people would say, well, they were special, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I
you're
find
right.
I find a lot of people tend to do that one. For example, I was telling somebody how this one kid, he has to be like 19 or 20 now. He can speak 24 languages, and 4 or 5 of them are dead languages. And he speaks.
Oh wow.
He speaks them all fluent, read and write. And I was telling this to my students, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, but he's special," And I was like, "No, he's not special. He busts his butt every day studying."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's right. And I think that that's a big program. That's a really, really big program. I think that program is attached to, I think it's attached to like the Savior program or also the third party program, that there's always somebody else, that is more magnificent or, is blessed with certain capabilities, but not you. We're not worthy. I think there's a lot of I'm not worthy and I'm not that important. Why would I be able to do all of that? So I think that's a real deep programming, and some people do push against that programming and manage to make it happen. And then there's some people where that's just not the feeling at all. You just feel like you can do anything. Unstoppable. But everybody has a potential to just be who and what they feel that they need to be, and it has nothing to do with measuring up against what Tom does or Ramon does or I do or whoever. That's not it. So we have to throw out the measuring device, because that's what people do. You measure. We see it on somebody mentioned that. Was it you yesterday? Where we see the commercials, where they're looking out the window and they're like, the Joneses just bought a new car. They must be, he must have gotten a raise. The husband must be making more money. So we see this barometer, that's always there of measuring ourselves against somebody else. Such and such has a college degree, your child doesn't. And all of that is just really so made up, because some of the most, successful, as we define success, not based on the standard definition of success, but some of the people that have been successful with getting their businesses going on a huge level were college dropouts. Oprah didn't go back and get a college degree till later, and Bill Gates, he went back. I think he did, and there's just like so many people.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think there is a healthy way of measuring yourself up against somebody, not in the sense of, well, so and so made $45 million by the time he was this age, and I'm still
being competitive.
Yeah, but I think for example, like, so and so ran that mile in this time. Maybe if I push myself a little harder, I can.
Well, that's healthy. Yeah, that's healthy. That's definitely. I agree. Because I do that when I do go hiking. Sometimes it's the only thing that gets me through it is not wanting anybody to see me slow down. I'm like, oh, you gotta keep going. You gotta go. And I'm like, God, I don't feel like it. Or I'm like, okay, well, don't let that person pass you. But I use it as motivation to, because I hike by myself all the time. So there's not, I'm the only motivation really. So I have to invent some. But I agree. But healthy in that sense, but not in the sense of competition where it eats you up.
Yeah.
Where you're almost not happy that the other person could possibly be happy. You know, it's a whole different ball game there.
Yeah.
Oh, real quickly too, let me mention one of the gentlemen in the film is Dr. Ernest Rossi, who's again he's just amazing. Him and his wife are just incredible. He's a psychologist and neuroscientist. This guy is brilliant. Now, why am I saying that? When he tells a story, and unfortunately, no, it's not in the film because there's just so much stuff I couldn't put it in there. I'm hoping maybe in the second one. But he tells me a story while I was interviewing him that this brilliant man who's written like 5 or 6 books, we're talking neuroscience here, that he was in the class for the slow kids because they used to section kids off, and back then when the term was, that they're retarded or slow, we use a different term now, but back then that's what it was. And they had him in that class for the longest while, thinking that there was something wrong with him because his brain just wasn't wired like the standard programmed way that we think everybody's brain, all the kids' brain should be wired. And anyway, but he tells a story about what happened, and I forgot what book he read, and what he was able to do, and some questions and stuff that he was able to answer on this test, and what really happened for him with being able to step forward. But here it is, they thought this man was slow. Why? Because he wasn't operating on the same program as a child. How much of that do we see? And so he didn't try to be successful based on any of that. He was just driven, curious, and that's why psychology, I think, became his thing, and neuroscience, trying to understand this. Now he's one of the most brilliant minds that we have on the planet now.
And we take care of that nowadays with things like Ritalin.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
If you're not towing the line, if you're not falling into line with the prescribed standard, then you get a prescription.
Yeah. We want to keep you just sort of dazed a little bit. And it is pretty crazy, but that is like the standard now. And then we see the results of a lot of this stuff every time they're asking about school shootings and all the crazy stuff that people are doing. There's so much that's involved besides maybe the drugs, the pharmaceutical, but other things that mess with the human mind and the chemical balance of the human brain. There's all kinds of outside influences in that sense.
They never really, on the major news, they never mentioned the drugs or like what's going on with the military. So many of them are creating suicide, and then you find out, or you're pumping them full of drugs when they come back with their problems.
Yeah, there was an ayahuasca special on what's that woman's name? She does oh my gosh, somebody had called me, and told me to watch it. I'll find it before we end the show because she actually did text me her name. But anyway, yes, and it was a lot of the military guys, it turns out, and women, there were quite a few of them, were going to Peru, I believe, to have to do ayahuasca. And what was happening is it was the one thing that was actually helping them to get through this PTSD, and the drugs that they were on were making them want to kill themselves, and they said that this was a last resort. And as 1 went and 2 and 3 went and had breakthroughs with it, then others would go. This one guy was like taking him. He was in the military too, but it worked for him. So he would take like a small group, like 5 people, and they would go down there. And we saw, it was a documentary, so we saw from before and then after and how they felt. So it was real interesting, very, very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I remember speaking of the business of disease, I asked a person who's working on cancer treatment, like coming up with new drugs that fight certain things and stuff like that. And I said, do you think that the answer would be in nutrition or natural herbs? And he said, absolutely not.
Because they might get well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
They might get well.
he was a young guy, and I've heard this from different people in the same field. For some reason, I've been around them a lot lately, and I constantly hear the same idea where that doesn't work.
For you talking now, is this for what? For PTSD or just?
Now I'm talking about for.
Oh, just general.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking. Oh, for can. Oh, yeah. That's pretty crazy. But that's right up there with when you see maybe on one of like Yahoo or something on the main page. You know, is there a difference between organic fruits and whatever regular grown foods? And then you'll hear, well, no, scientists are saying there's really no difference. It's right up there. You know, one has chemicals right out there, the other one doesn't, but they're saying that there really is no difference. So it makes total sense that guy would come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
And obviously what they're doing does not really work. Anyway, it's not working. Cutting out, body parts, it doesn't really solve the problem, which is the reason why so many times it comes back, because they never get to the root of what the problem is in the body, what generated it, what started it in the first place. And people are, they're looking for a way. They're looking for a way out. So, and what do we want to do? You really want to live. People want to live. So, they hope. They go with those options, and then they hope that it's all going to be okay. But what we have to remember is that just as the body, when we get a cut or any anything like that, I mean, it's on the outside. It's not as big as, say, a dis-ease, like you mentioned, but look at how the body repairs. Look at how it mends. It has an ability to mend. The bones are broken. They have an ability to mend. Now, everything can happen even more quickly, more rapidly, more efficiently, more effectively under the right conditions. If the arm, if the broken area is set properly, even if it's not at a hospital, in the country or whatever, they even know how to do that and make sure it's set properly. That part will grow back just fine. Fingers, they've been able to reattach. You got cut off, you can reattach. So we have to begin to look at that. If the body can do that on minuscule things, obviously, maybe under the right conditions, the body really can heal. However, when it is a severe situation, I understand that's where the challenges come in, and it does take a lot more for that person to heal. Where it actually starts, though, is truly it's really the emotional part of us. That's really where all of the dis-ease really begins. And people eat right. You hear, oh, they ate so well and they exercised, but they still ended up getting sick. So that tells you that there is something else, and that's the reason why it is so necessary to address the emotional part of us, which is what we were kind of talking about earlier when we were talking about, procrastination and when should you do it, not do it, and, being truthful to yourself. I think it's all of that. When we live a life with tons of skeletons in our closet, and I don't mean that we have to disclose everything. We have to disclose things to other people. I'm not saying you have to go out and tell a good person syndrome. That is a setup. You know me and that good person thing. But all these skeletons in our closet, all the stuff that is just so tucked away, hidden. And since you don't have to go telling everybody anything, I think what helps is when you can say to yourself is I am totally at peace with everything that I have done. So in other words, if somebody else were to find out about it, you realize you're going to live. You'll be okay. you'll be okay. And I think it's just coming to that place. And where's all this happening? Inwards, not outside, but inwards, coming to peace with all of that stuff. And maybe who you were then is not who you are now, but just coming to peace with it. And that alone can make a difference. Otherwise, what you're doing is you are suppressing, and the body is compensating for and responding to all that you're trying to suppress. It's impacting, you at the cellular level. It's like it's stress, a different level of stress on your body, and you can't really get to be all of who you are when you are mad at yourself or can't forgive yourself, or all that hidden stuff. You have to free yourself and go, you know what? It was what it was, but I'm right here right now. And to me, you start letting go, because everything carries a frequency. All of those beliefs carry a frequency. They all carry a vibration, and your body is responding to that just like it responds to a thought. You get a stomach ache when there's fear. You get knots in your stomach when there's fear or panic or whatever. Just think about how your body responds to a thought, or something that you imagine, or something horrific. You get knots. Your heart beats fast. So it is with even the very things at the subconscious level. Those things, your body is sensitive to that, because that's how it's designed, to process emotions, electrochemical impulses.
Yeah. There's, something I read yesterday that I found absolutely amazing when it comes to the healing process. And it was going out to nature and observing, the top lines of the trees, especially during sunrise or sunset, and then absorbing that energy through your eyes. The same way you absorb the oxygen, you breathe in the oxygen, you breathe out the carbon dioxide, that the trees do a similar thing with your energies. So you pull that in. And the story was this one guy who supposedly was shot with a shotgun, and his intestines were completely, ruined, and he had to use bags. And supposedly over the course of I don't know how many years, he was able to grow them back by doing that process. And
yeah, I agree.
And the other one I found amazing that I read yesterday was this guy, I forgot his name. This guy talking about training your body to withstand extreme colds. So by taking a cold shower and then doing the deep breathing beforehand, and then after the cold shower taking a walk, and then dropping the temperature, and you find these people who swim in Arctic Ocean, butt naked, and oh my God.
Oh yeah. There's a guy. What's his name? He does that. He does workshops. Travels around.
Yeah, Wim. I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name either, because I was on his list, because I was thinking about it. I was thinking about doing it when he was coming to the area. And so I'm on their mailing list, but I can't remember what his name is right now.
Wim, something like that?
Oh, no, it's I don't remember where he's from, though. He's not American. I don't remember where he's from, but,
a cold region, maybe?
Yeah, cold region, maybe? Well, you're sharp today.
Oh, boy. Thank you.
Oh, God. But then even with the trees, what you're saying is true. Now, I heard this directly from this lady. I went into this Chinese herb shop a couple of years ago, and I was trying to get something for my cousin for her eyes. And this lady in there, she's a Chinese doctor. She's a medical doctor in China. Here, you know how that is. It's like you don't quite have unless you do the whole whatever to get your license here. Yeah. But I was talking to her, and she said, the best thing that you can do for your eyes is to stare at the green in the leaves in the tree. She says the best thing you can do for your eyes, that will repair your eyes. Now, when she said it, I was like, wow. Then it made more sense to me when I was watching, what is that show, Brain Games or something like that? And they were talking about the fact that the color of the leaves, we see the leaves as green, but they're not. they're like all these colors. They're these frequencies. It's not green. It's like a whole bunch of different colors, but our eyes interpret it pick it up as that color. So what I gather from that is, oh, that's why it works, because we are actually picking up all these different light frequencies are actually penetrating the eye. It's actually being taken in by the eye, and you know how that works. You don't see with your eyes, you really see with your brain. So they pick up those light frequencies anyway, and then they go to the back to the optic nerves and back out through the eye. So the eyes really just act as a lens. So it's amazing.
The perceptible percentage of the visible light. I mean oh geez, spit it out, Tom. What we can actually see out of the spectrum is such a small sliver.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
was it like 2% or something like that?
I don't know what the percentage is, Ramon.
But it's small.
It's small.
Yeah.
What we can actually see as far as what is actually going in there in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We don't see. Our brains are not. Our brains are sort of programmed to see only certain colors in the color spectrum. So we don't see. We don't see all those colors. We only see a limited amount of colors that's associated with this reality, is how I kind of interpreted this reality. But then I think as we open up and expand, I think there's so much more that we'll be able to see, and that's really the brain allowing, the brain getting the message that it's okay to allow us to see more, because the brain already picks up all this stuff, in all honesty, but it filters it. It filters what we will see, and much of the filtering happens based on what? It's based on what we can accept as a possibility as individuals and as a collective, the collective species. And that's how it's filtering what we can see. So some people, there's some people that are able to then intercept other layers of reality that's there, and they see certain things. They can see, more maybe what we call ghosts or this or that. They can see other spectrums or other realities per se, just because their brain is allowing them to see that.
Yeah. So
we said on Ramon.
I was just about to say that. So we reached the top of the hour, and I want to give Sonia a chance to say how good of a person she is.
I am just like incredible. When you look in the dictionary under good person, that's me. Not. I don't even know what good person is. I'm always saying that. What does that mean to be a good person? Anyway, I'm just me. And anyway,
where can we find you?
I'm still trying to find me. It's like Waldo. But for the most part, I'm going to say you can find out. You can find out more about me and how to find me by going to spiritinform.com. And also for the film, it's thebusinessofdisease.com. And the film premieres, for those in LA, it premieres on the 15th of November at the Laemmle Theater in North Hollywood. If you want to come, please do, I'd say email me, because we're reserving seats, because there's so many seats. So I would love to see as many people there. We have some of the people in the film that are going to be there as well to answer questions. So there'll be a Q&A afterwards. And there's a book that goes with the film. It's called Health, an Inside Job and Outside Business, and it's a chapter written by everybody in the film. So do check it out.
Nice. Very nice.
And what's because you have several books. How many books do you have written?
Well, there's 3. There's the Holographic Canvas, the Fusing of Mind and Matter, there's A Journey of Possibilities, and of course, Health, and Inside Job and Outside Business, which I published, and I also have a chapter in the book as well.
Nice.
And there's lots of workshops and, DVDs and CDs and all of that on the website. And I'm doing another 2-day at my house in January. That's on the website too. I did it once, was last January. It was amazing. And we did a retreat last August in Ojai, which was amazing. And I suspect I may do this again next August. But it'll all be on the website.
Nice. So we'll continue with the perception of what we see, because that's really interesting. So we'll continue there in the next hour. And Tom?
Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And a little note for all you guys out there listening on those other media formats, the iTunes, the YouTubes, the Vimos, the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to check out all the second hour content, pop on over to www.thehundredthmonkeyradio.com and dip into the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of audio we have over there.
I don't know about that many hundreds.
Or there's quite a bit.
We're working on it.
I'm gonna have to add that up one of these days, Ramon.
Yeah, you go ahead. No worries.
All right, guys. We'll see you now.
Gladiators, glowing tubes that mesmerize, netting minds like butterflies, hapless flying in the night like moths misled into a light. Information overload, trust me, then do what you're told. Tell me who you think I am, give me meaning in a head. Just tell me the truth. Process